great day for a barbecue in Carnarvon. Karratha fine and hot, 39 degrees. Afternoon thunderstorms and a top of 40 for Parabadoo. Fairly sticky conditions at Newman today, which is being overtaken by a heat low and a top of 41 degrees. And for Denham residents, a bad hair day. Hang on to your hat because westerlies are forecast for the entire day.
It's 7:20. You're with the Sound of the Northwest. I'm Paul Semple.
You're with Paul Semple on Local Mornings. A comprehensive look at the news.
Okay, now stick around for something different. Here at 6KP Karratha, we don't call ourselves the Sound of the Northwest for nothing. We believe we know the people, the places and the issues better than anyone else. So now we're going to mix mediums, radio and television, to illustrate what we've been talking about for so long, the Pilbara.
And all that.
The Pilbara is one of the oldest land masses on Earth, a geologist's playground estimated to be more than 2.5 billion years old and covering 500,000 square kilometres. Situated in the northwest of Australia, it's bound by the Indian Ocean to the west, and to the east is the Great Sandy Desert. The main population centres like Port Hedland and Karratha are located along the coast. Tom Price, Newman and other towns of the hinterland exist solely because of the vast reserves of iron ore. Although the Pilbara's mineral wealth is unrivalled, its most precious resource remains the people who live and work in this harsh yet beautiful part of the country.
When you look at the scenery here, when you first see it, it looks pretty like the moon, but it grows on you. And this is some of the most rugged country I've actually ever seen, and some of the most beautiful country I've ever seen is here. When you catch it early in the morning, late at night, during the cyclone season, and you see this Pilbara and all those different shades, it's beautiful.
Now we've got the turtles starting to climb up the beach. It's just all here. It's stuff you take for granted. The dugongs, the whale sharks, the swimming is magnificent, the fishing is terrific.
Hi, I'm Russell Wolfe and I'm the resources reporter with ABC Radio based in Karratha. I've been living in the Pilbara for more than 2 years, and what a beautiful spot it is. Right now we're at Hearson's Cove, which is on the Burrup Peninsula. The Burrup is the most prolific example of Aboriginal rock engravings in the world. Here alone are more than 10,000 images, some 40 million years old. They capture the rich culture of Aboriginal communities over countless generations. It was over 130 years ago that the first expedition ventured into the Pilbara, but it wasn't until the 1880s that we saw the first exploitation of its rich resources. A young Aboriginal, Jimmy Withnell of Mallina Station, picked up a lump of rock and threw it at a crow, discovering it was flecked with gold, and the rush was on. Gold fever swept Australia. Men in droves cashed in their savings and jumped on the first ships to the Pilbara. They arrived by pack horse, camel, bicycle and on foot at Bamboo Creek, Marble Bar and Nullagine. Once gold became too hard to find, pastoralism took over as drovers brought in cattle and sheep and set up homesteads on vast tracts of land. Then came the 1960s, and we witnessed the birth of a new era in the Pilbara.
This ancient range of mountains in the northwest of Australia contains the largest reserves of iron in the world. Geologists guess there are at least 100 million tons, enough to supply the whole world at the present rate of use for 140,000 years.
population of 45,000 people. The region and its community are responsible for generating $6.5 billion in export income per annum. That's 1/3 of Western Australia's total export revenue, and it relies on a railway system which hauls more bulk material than any other network in the world. Not far from the town of Karratha is the site of the Pilbara Railway's Historic Society, where a collection of vintage locos can be found. One of the driving forces behind the society is train buff Wayne Carman, and Wayne has one train in the collection that seems a little out of place.
Well, when the society was formed in 1976, we tried to get a steam locomotive within Australia, and unfortunately we were unable to obtain one. So the then general manager of CRA mentioned he was going to the UK and he would try and get us Flying Scotsman. When he put the acid on the people in the UK, they said, no, you can't have Flying Scotsman. Pendennis Castle was for sale. And at that time, Pendennis Castle needed major boiler work. It ran a final trip in the UK, and then it was loaded on the ship and it came to Australia. Hammersley Iron is the only railway company in the Pilbara that has allowed a private group to run passenger trains over their rail network. Without locomotives, and in the Pilbara's case it was all diesel electrics, the iron ore industry would not have developed to the state it has.
Along with the growth of towns and communities in the 60s came social problems that still reverberate throughout the region.
When the construction finished and the families were just starting to arrive in Port Hedland, a social tragedy occurred because in those days people, once they got the air conditioning, they just seemed to demand that they had to have it in their whole house, and it became like they were confined to the house. And all the houses were locked up, mainly purely because of cyclone shutters, and you couldn't open your windows. And the social tragedies happened because the women at the time just didn't leave the house. And, there was such a lot of break-up in marriages, there was a lot of discontent with the children, and it was just the fact that the women did not leave those houses.
It's 9:15 on the Northwest Morning Program. I hope you're enjoying the day. Mary Rooker is a domestic violence and victim support worker with the Link office in Karratha, and she joins me in the studio. Good morning to you, Mary. When women first arrive in Karratha, to start with, the weather is different. What sort of things do they face and how do they react to it?
I've known of women that have come from over east and they've spent the first 2 weeks crying. Just the heat alone has been so intense and hard to bear. Some of them end up on antidepressants and trying to deal with it alone. Their expectations are a little bit higher, and they get here and they see it's just a shopping centre. Everything revolves around the centre here.
There's not really a main street to wander.
No, not like they are used to, and it's a culture shock.
I haven't got a family.
No family?
No, I haven't got a family.
Do you think you'd be able to hold on to one?
That'd be hard. Yeah, because you hear so many stories about the guys and their families and how they drift apart, but I suppose it just depends on your relationship.
Hello and welcome to the Northwest Morning Program on ABC Radio. I'm Vanessa Mills. Nice to have your company. Coming up, you'll get the latest on a truck rollover on the Northwest Coastal Highway. But first, Roban is the oldest surviving town north of Geraldton and was once the centre for the early mining and pastoral industries. It now has a population of about 1,000 people. And today, the new Roban Police Station is officially opened. The historic stone jail and original police station were built by Aboriginal prisoners back in 1896.
My name is Rod Marshall. I'm a sergeant at Roban Police Station. I was sent up here from the metropolitan area in 1996 and was fortunate enough to be here for the opening of this police station. It's a beautiful new complex, and we have this policy here now with our community policing of not locking people up. We take them home or find other means of dealing with them where possible. Through this we have reduced our rate of incarceration by over 90%. The community itself is brilliant to work with. They are very pro-police, and it is good to be here.
The song that the children sang at the opening of the police station was Nanga Dongora, was this land is my land. Ngai Inji Bandi. I'm from the Inji Bandi tribe. And the other phrase that we used was Banjima. Ngai Banjima was from a Banjima tribe because one of the teachers that was working there was a lady from a Banjima tribe, and she and I were working together at the pre-primary school at that time.
Hello, I'm Annalise Murch. I'm the producer of the Northwest Morning program, and I've lived in the Pilbara for a little over 2 years now, and it's certainly one of the most unique places I've ever lived in. The vast landscape and the red rocks that look like they've been piled up by some enormous front-end loader on steroids. One of the hardest things to get used to living in this environment is the climate. This area has a tropical semi-desert climate, with temperatures that range from 0 to 45 degrees. One of Australia's hottest spots is Marble Bar, mistakenly named after the bed of jasper on the Koongan River. It's your classic outback town with wide main streets, a pub made from corrugated iron, and a big two-up competition on race day. And the mercury has been known to hit 49.2 degrees.
Well, Marble Bar to me is home. The Pilbara to me is probably the best place on the world to live. I think we've got a lot more than what a lot of other people have got. For example, peace and quiet. You'd pay a lot of money for peace and quiet. We've got scenery, we've got a big family. Everyone will look after us. If anything happens, there's always the community behind us.
From one extreme to the other. As the Pilbara is in an area referred to as Cyclone Alley, conditions can change dramatically, and no one knows this better than the people of Exmouth, where Cyclone Vance, the fiercest cyclone to ever cross mainland Australia, left the town in tatters.
Yeah, we went through Cyclone Olivia in Hedland a few years ago.
Nothing on this.
That was nothing. This is just unbelievable, the damage that's gone through. Can't believe it. And no one's hurt. No one's hurt. Town is gone. So just got to pick your pieces up and try and carry on.
Winds of up to 300 kilometres per hour destroyed hundreds of homes and left boats high and dry in the streets.
To provide a vehicle and a chauffeur for Keith Floyd, the international chef. But anyway, I fronted up out here at the airport, and some people might not know Keith Floyd that well, but he's a very recognisable character, and of course he's a POM, you know.
Because I do travel around the place in considerable style, as you can imagine. I've got a whole coachload of former heiresses, failed heiresses and stuff cooking me rice back in the servants' quarters.
And I pulled up to the stairs, and before I even had a chance to open the door, a young waitress trying to do the right thing shot down the stairs, stuck her head in the window, and she said, "You can't park here." And Keith just said, "Oh, we're not going to stay just yet. We'd just like to, wondered if we might have a look at the menu, please." And she said, well, the menu's, yeah, we haven't actually got a menu yet, but we serve most things. And he said, "And what time does the meal start now?" And she says, 7:30. He says, "Very well." And she And just with that, before she left, she said, "And you have to wear shoes."
We cover such a huge area from Port Hedland to Kalbarri and across to the northeastern goldfields. And that obviously encompasses a range of issues from tourism to pastoralism to pearling, fishing and mining, obviously. A lot of the towns around here are still owned by mining companies and are obviously affected by what happens in that industry, including issues of health and safety. ABC Regional News, I'm Tanya Nolan. An Aboriginal family involved in a landmark compensation case says it wants the public to be more informed about the dangers of asbestos. The family of former Aboriginal leader Roger Solomon have lodged a joint claim against mining giant CSR.
Yes, my brother and I, we used to go and play down at Point Sampson. What's the name? Asbestos storage place. We played in the asbestos sheds that was down there where they store all the asbestos. And we used to go in there and just play cowboys and Indians and maybe have sleep and throw asbestos around and all that stuff. My brother got ill. I forgot what exactly the year that he got ill, but he was diagnosed with mesothelioma. My health situation, when I went down to Perth, they sort of tested me and everything. I seemed to be okay, but you never know. In the long run, it might catch up. It might catch up with me. You know, we just don't know when this thing gonna show. It takes well, my brother died at the age of 40 something, and I'm only about 42 at the moment, and you never know when it's gonna appear. Well, you know, you take life just one day at a time, I suppose. You know, knowing that I've been playing with asbestos and all that stuff, and I don't know whether I'm gonna contract it or something like that. But you know, as they say, the doctors say you just be, you know, one in a million whether you contract it or not, you know. It's just a chance that you take every day.
Some of Australia's biggest stations are in the Pilbara, and a number trace their origins back to the 1860s. Sprawling Budari Station covers an area of 778 square kilometres and is the last of the big sheep stations this far north of Perth. It has a distinctly Australian flavour to it, and so does the man who manages the property, a legend in these parts, Peter Hardy.
And in 1971, the bull market just went down through the floor and kept on going, and nearly took me with it. We survived by rationalisation and getting back to running the place with just myself and my wife and a daughter who could wave her arms and say when I'd gone down the windmill far enough. But things got very tough for a while, and I had an application sitting on my table that I'd written for a job with a mining company. But that's been about the bottom when I wrote that out. And I suppose I had it for a month or 2 months sitting on my desk. And the wool market picked up. And all of a sudden I could see a glimmer of hope.
You're with Paul Semple on Local Mornings here on ABC Radio, the sound of the Northwest.
Well, what are you doing at the moment? Are you shopping, doing some housework, washing the car perhaps? It may not be as interesting as my next guest, Dave Culling, who is on a Hammersley Iron ore train heading toward Dampier. Welcome to the program, Dave. Where are you at the moment?
We're approximately 120 k's inland from Dampier on the Hammersley Iron Railway. We started out from Parabadoo. The train left at 04:20 this morning.
As you're looking outside the cab, what can you see?
Out the window at the moment, we've basically got mulga scrub, and that's really about it up here, and a bit of spinifex.
How frequently do you make this trip?
We work 4 days on, 4 days off. Usually do one trip in that 4 days, which is a 2-day trip, one up, one back.
What's that noise in the background, Dave?
That noise is the alerter, or more commonly known as the dead man switch. but has to be pressed every 45 seconds. If it's not pressed, the train brakes come on and the train comes to a stand.
Thanks for your time on the program this morning, Dave. We look forward to seeing you in Dampier.
A look at the Pilbara would be incomplete without a visit to this extraordinary site on the Burrup Peninsula. And as the sun sets and this silver city lights up, you could be forgiven for thinking you're on a set of the latest Star Wars movie. This is where they produce liquefied natural gas and other oil and gas commodities. The total value of this entire plant and the offshore assets comes to a staggering total of $12 billion. That makes this the single largest resource project in the entire nation. The North West Shelf project is a joint venture between 6 major companies and includes 8 state-of-the-art tankers and an underwater pipeline that carries gas 130 kilometres from the Goodwin and North Rankin platforms to the onshore processing plant. Here, 7.5 million tonnes of LNG a year is exported to Japan. And although it looks like a mini city, it can actually be operated by as few as 12 people.
I originally came for a short term for employment, but it's one of those places that it's very hard to stay if the family's not happy. It's a long way away from family. There's no extended family here. But as you get to know people and you build friendships, the families start to enjoy themselves and settle in. So at this stage, I think we're here for the long term. I enjoy fishing and boating, so I spend a lot of time on the islands out here. I'm not a very good fisherman. I don't catch too many, but it's good for the ecology, so I don't take too many.
My father used to be an undertaker, and ever since we were kids, we used to give him a hand with the undertaking, holding the horse while the funeral service was on and all that sort of things, you know. And as a matter of fact, I buried a woman here one time. She went 29 stone. She was only 5'2" high, but she's a long way around her, sort of, you know. And I couldn't get a box. I got a Electrolux freezer box, so eventually I got one through a policeman. They wouldn't sell them unless they sold me the freezer and all. And I said, well, it's a dead loss. I only get £40 to buy a freezer, and I'm only getting 20 quid to do the job, sort of, you know. So I said, well, that's a dead loss. It looks like I'll have to gut her. I can't shift her. Anyhow, the policeman said, I'll go and... So he rang up Dalgety, of course, and he said, yeah, righto. So I went and buried her in an Electrolux freezer box, and they had this side up the handle of the chair, and that drop and all this sort of stuff. But that's the sort of thing you had to do those days to get away with, sort of thing.
The port of Dampier is 20 kilometres west of Karratha and is ideally located to serve mining companies in the Pilbara. Hamersley Iron, Dampier Salt and the North West Shelf partners ensure Dampier is the country's second largest tonnage port. And it's the end of the journey for Dave Culling's iron ore train. Each year, about 2,500 vessels, including some of the world's largest, carry over 75 million tonnes of cargo from this port. Modern technology has made it easier, but a port cannot run efficiently without wharfies.
Well, I'm a watchmaker by trade, and up here there wasn't too many jeweller shops. So I had to sort of vary my outlook on work. We all get along pretty well. We have our moments, as every work crew does, but we got a lot of New Zealand boys here. We got a lot of boys from over east, a lot of local fellas. Everybody sort of thinks that up here in the Pilbara it's big dollars, earn big money, which is 50% right. Yeah, the money's good. The thing is too is with your charges, your cost of living, your transporting costs, everything is in relation to your wages. And basically, in the long run, you're probably not much better off. Best thing about the place? Isolation. I like the isolation.
It was only in 1952 that Lang Hancock landed his plane in the Pilbara and discovered some of the world's largest deposits of iron ore. Now this region is a world leader in the mining and export of natural resources like liquefied natural gas, salt, and of course iron ore. Even a visionary like Lang Hancock would have been hard-pressed to predict the role that this region would play on the world stage. And now from the world stage to our own backyard, let's head indoors and meet local singer Leon Stoudy.
Always had a roof above me, I've always paid